All right. So on the schedule for today, we have mbox and mbox short. Okay. Has anybody heard this term before, mbox? Okay. It stands for mailbox. Okay. So when your emails go around, it goes in this mbox format. It's a text format. Okay. So even though, your Gmail, you see it, in a different way, just like with CSV is actually just a bunch of commas, numbers separated by commas. But when we open it in Excel or numbers, we see it in, a table. So similarly, the mbox format is just a bunch of text. When our mail program opens it, or when our mail app opens it, we'll see it formatted nicely. But let's look at this. This is what mail actually looks like. Okay, you might have heard of people getting mails of political rivals or something in the news lately. This person's emails were leaked. This politician's emails were leaked. Okay, so when it's leaked, it comes in this format. Okay, or you might have heard of WikiLeaks posting like people's emails, or some sort of whistleblower getting some emails from some company and like posting it online. This is the format it's posted in. So now we use Python to analyze this and figure out like who sent this, what all's in it, how many emails were sent, what time were they sent, who were the senders, which, what addresses did they come from, which countries they were in, all that stuff. Okay, now this we cannot use CSV. This is not in the format that we saw the CSV file in. All right, so how do we deal with this? So we're going to open it using files. Python actually has a file open command. We're going to use that. Okay, so when we see stuff in this format, we're going to have a separate way of dealing with it versus the CSV that we just saw. Right, are we okay so far? All right, so let's open a new Colab file. We're going to call this files Feb 24th. Or let's call it files and strings. We need to use like string methods to analyze this. Okay, so we're going to go to Colab. Okay, we're going to go to new notebook. Okay, we're going to call this files and strings. And this is Feb 24th. All right, so your text goes through like quite a bit on what files are and how, the theory behind it. Okay, so if you want to read over it, this class focuses more on application. Okay, so we're going to focus on how to open the file. All right, so typically, this is how it works. So here in this cylinder here is our mbox file. Okay, it's right now, we've opened it, but we need to download it and store it on the computer. We are going to, just like what we did with the CSV, we're going to upload it to Colab. Okay, and then our program here uses what's called a file handle to open this. Okay, now with CSV, what we use was called a data frame. It is Python's version of a table, so it looks just like Excel, rows, columns, stuff like that. Okay, but this one is a little different. It's called a file handle. Okay, so when we can read what's in the file, we can also write to the file. Okay, but first we need to open the file. Okay, so this is the standard format. All right, so let's try this out. So the first thing we need to do is to download the two files. Okay, so please open mbox.txt and mboxshort.txt in two separate tabs. Okay, so you can click on it, and then you can command click or control click to open it in a different tab. Okay, so you'll see two tabs, one with this mbox and one with the mbox short. Okay, the mbox short is just like a summarized version of the mbox file. Actually, it just has like fewer emails. All right, so because the mbox file itself is really long, okay, some of the analysis we'll do might take some time. Okay, so go to your browser window, file, and then we can download it. Save page as. Okay, so mbox, save it in downloads. Okay, and this can also go to file, save page as, mbox short and downloads. Right, so if you sort, if you go to your downloads and then sort by date, you should be able to see mbox and mbox short.
How did you save them here?
I went to my browser and went to file, save as. Okay, which browser are you on? Do you need some help?
I'm on Edge. So that's probably the biggest.
Well, hold on, let me stop recording for a bit. All right, so once you finish downloading, it should say mbox.txt, mbox-short.txt. Okay, so you can open them and check what it looks like. It'll just look like a bunch of text. Okay, but it actually has people's emails, who sent it, what time they sent it. So this is actually a standard format. Mail servers all over the world use this format. Right, so it'll say what the from, the return path, the received. It'll give you a URL, okay, as well as an IP address. Okay, so the IP address are those numbers here you see here. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. Okay, so these numbers here, like this one here, 141.211.14.79, that identifies a specific server on the internet. Okay, so these sort of things are how you do analysis on it. Okay, so let's take a look. Some of the lines start with received. Okay, some lines have a from and who's sending it. Okay, does everybody see that? Okay, some have, the date. There's X authentication warning. There's a to. There's a subject, right? You type a subject line in the email. Okay, and then in your mailbox, like most of you will have a spam folder. It'll run something in the background, try to guess if this is spam or not. Like sometimes it misses some spam emails, it comes to your inbox. Sometimes it, gets some legit emails and sends it to your spam folder. So there's a program running in the background that tries to see, whether this is spam or not. So it actually analyzes all the words inside and tries to check, okay, so is this email from a known spammer? Are these words similar to what spammers send? Okay, so if you notice some spam emails, they try to get around the spam filter by making some spaces wide, like putting additional spaces between the words, like trying to use some different words, put some random text, at the bottom of those all to get around the spam filters. So now it'll give you a spam confidence. Like how confident is this that this is spam or not? 0 to 100. Okay, so that's what all these numbers are. So we can analyze any of these. Okay, so now let's go back to our Colab. Okay, does everybody remember how to get the file? You have to click on the folder icon on the left side. Okay, this button here, the folder icon. Okay, and then it'll give you this files connect to runtime. And then if you wait a few seconds, this will pop up. Okay, we need this button here on the top left to upload. Okay, so we're going to upload and we're going to choose mbox and mbox short. So let's sort by date added so I can see I'm in documents. Right, so let's open mbox short. That should upload quickly. Mbox will take a little longer to upload since it's a bigger file. So we let that upload in the background. Okay, now typically we'll call the file handler fhand. Okay, but for you to remember what it is, we are going to use the variable name mbox file handle. Okay, so and mbox short file handle. Okay, so we're going to go mbox short underscore file underscore handle. Sure, sorry. Right, so here we are. Okay, so you have to be careful with the spelling. So whenever you use a variable name, you have to use the same variable name elsewhere in your program. Okay, so we're going to go with, we're going to open the file. All right, so you can, so usually people forget about this, and like anytime you forget what the pandas read CSV is, on the quizzes, on the final, please refer to the documentation, right? Or refer to your homework files or something like that. And the textbook is also there. So if you have trouble, like what was this, so it's this format here. Okay, it's fairly simple. You name the file handle. The most common name for file handle is fhand. Okay, but if you're opening multiple files, we want to give it different names. Okay, so this is called a file handle. If you don't remember what it is, that's this. It's very simple. We just put open. Okay, instead of the pandas.read CSV, we put open, and then in parentheses, we put the name of the file. The name of the file has to be exact. All right, so let's do that. So is equal to open, and then open parenthesis, in quotation marks, we're going to use the name of the file. Okay, so so that you don't make a mistake, you can click on the three dots here, click on rename file. That's going to give you this little box here. And so you can select the whole thing. Command C for copy on Mac, Control C for copy on Windows, and then paste it here. That way you don't make a mistake with the file name. Okay, one letter off, you put underscore instead of a dash, anything like that, it'll give you a file not found error. All right, so now if you run this, cannot assign to operator. All right, it didn't like the dash in there. Yeah, let me try underscore instead. All right, so I've got mbox underscore short underscore file underscore handle. Okay, so it didn't like the dash. Python is a little finicky. All right, so whenever you get something like that, try changing the names out there. Okay, so there are some rules that I think I mentioned right in the beginning. You can't start a file name with a number. You can't use a keyword. And typically, we don't want to start names with a capital letter. Okay, even though Python doesn't give you errors for some of those things, like that's good programming practice. All right, now it looks like it didn't do anything, but you can actually print out this. And this is what it gives you. Okay, so this is the file handle. Okay, yeah. All right, let's resume recording. All right, has everybody got this? This little thing out here is a file handle. So it tells you the name of the file, mode is read, the encoding, and IO stands for input output. Right now, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for actually the lines in the file. Right? So for this, we need a for loop. Everyone remember for loops? So this is fairly simple. We can go for line in okay, so copy the variable name exactly as it is. Okay, that's going to be after the in. Okay, it has to match exactly. One punctuation off and you'll get an error. Okay, this one here is your iteration variable. You can name it anything you want, but typically we want to give it a name so that we'll remember what this is. So when it steps through a file, a text file, and use a for loop to step through a text file, each variable will consist of one line. Okay, so that's why we use the name line, so that we can remember that it's that this is going to be a line. Okay, you can name it whatever you want and it'll still work. Okay, so let's go with print line. Okay, and that's our for loop. So here we go. We've got the whole program, but it's got some extra spaces in between. Right? Does everybody see? As compared to what we opened in Notepad, this has extra spaces. Okay, is this working? Right? Everybody's got this working?
Yeah, I'm switching the inspect now.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. All right. Are we okay so far? Okay, now we need to get rid of those extra lines. All right, for this, we're going to go to our, let me close these two. All right. We're going to go to chapter 6 on strings. All right, sure. Okay, so go to chapter 6 on strings, and here are all the methods. We're going to use a few methods to, to go through these things. Okay, so whenever you need, you can go through this reference. Okay, there's also links to other references that we've used. Okay, string methods, stuff like that. Okay, so this is Python's documentation of string methods. It'll tell you, like, all these things that you can do with strings. Okay, I'm going to put this in the Zoom chat. I think it records that as well. Okay, but this is here in chapter 6. There are links down here to docs.python.org, which is Python's official documentation, and it goes to string methods. Okay, so that's going to be a reference. You'll need to use it for homework and for the quiz. Has everyone found it? All right, so what did we need to look at on the Colab?
Oh, just
Which program? This one, right?
yeah.
Okay, so it's fairly simple. It's just 3 lines. The first line creates a file handle. The second line is a for loop that goes through every line in the file handle, and the third one is in each pass through the for loop, it prints out the line. Okay, so what we're going to use here. Okay, so we go through this, and we're going to find the stuff to get rid of the extra lines. Okay, now there are so many string methods out here. So we're going to try this one here, rstrip. Returns a copy of the string with the trailing characters removed. Okay, so characters is where we're going to put in our string. In this case, it's called line. All right. So it'll so here are some examples, like what all we can remove. Okay, we can also use strip itself. So this removes leading and trailing characters. Okay, so which means that if we have like an extra enter at the beginning of the line or the extra enter at the end of the line. Okay, in this case, the extra enter is at the end of our line, so we can use either one. We can use strip or rstrip. Okay, so strip takes out the extra line before and after the line, whereas rstrip takes away only the extra line after the line. Okay, so in this case, both these will work because our extra lines are after the line. Okay, so let's see how this works. Okay, so we're going to, inside the for loop, we're going to modify line. So we're going to change line. line is equal to line dot r strip. Okay, so r strip removes the extra line to the right. So there's an extra line to the right here. So now if you run this, you'll see that the extra lines are gone. You can also use strip. It'll do the same thing. Okay, instead of r strip, you can also use strip. Strip removes extra lines before and after. All right, are we okay? All right, so now now we can look for certain things inside the file. Like say, for example, we want this. Let's say, for example, here there's this MIME version, right? Does everybody see this MIME version? Let's say we want to look for these particular lines. Okay, so I'm going to select this, copy this. Okay, and we're going to search for this. Now here, there are several methods we can use. Okay, this, I don't expect you to remember all of this. Okay, there's only if you use all these methods every day, you're going to remember these, and it's only going to be the methods that you use very often. Okay, so I don't expect you to memorize any of this. Use the documentation on the quiz and the homework. Okay, here's the link. Now I know Colab keeps putting you to like, some advanced, like whenever you get an error, it'll be like, oh, search this thing, search Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is typically for advanced programmers. I would suggest you use the documentation or use W3 Schools, which is another great source. I've put the links in my syllabus as well. Okay, so this is more meant for beginners. Okay, so we are going to, there are a few things that we can look for. So one of them is this string.find. Okay, so what does this do? It looks for the substring sub. So it's going to look for this thing here. Then we can put optional arguments start and end, which we don't really need. It returns -1 if it can't find it. Okay, so we're going to search for a string. If it doesn't find it, it'll return -1. If it does find it, it's going to return the position of the string. Let's check this out. So we'll have an if in here. Line.find, and let's say, what are we looking for? Okay, now here our problem would be that so line.find is going to return a number, and if I put in an if statement, it's going to return true. Okay, so if I run this, it actually won't make much of a difference to the code. It's going to show me every single line. Okay, now what's important to remember is that if it doesn't find it, it returns -1. -1 for an if statement returns true. Okay, so we actually need to check whether it's returned -1 or not. Okay, so if it returns -1, that means this MIME version was not found. If it returns any other number, it was found. Okay, so here what we have to check is that it was not equal to -1. Does anyone remember what the operator for not equal to is? Yeah. Right, exclamation point equal to sign. Exclamation point equal to sign. It should not be equal to -1. And there we go. We get only the MIME versions. All right, are we okay? Now, what if we wanted just the 1.0 at the end? Okay, does everyone remember string splicing? Strings are important. Okay, we work a lot with text, especially nowadays, like Instagram is being analyzed quite a lot. All right, so how do we get just that number at the end and see if there are anything besides 1.0? Yeah,
You would do the brackets and then
right.
you could just count from the back. So I guess you'd have to do a range because it's not the last digit. So it's not like the colon. So
Right, yeah. Okay, so it's not the last digit, but we can use, so we can either count out MIME dash version, the colon, the space, and then start at position 1. Everyone remember the square brackets, the number and the colon in between, right? So we can use that. Or to make life simple, we can also use the negative numbers, right? So we know that instead of counting forward, MIME dash VERSION, whatever, colon, space, 1, okay? So we can just go backwards, 0, dot, 1. Okay, and sometimes this takes a little bit of trial and error. Remember, Python starts counting at 0, not at 1. Okay, but when it goes backwards, it starts at -1. Okay, so let's print line -3, colon. Sorry? The one before it? I didn't follow. -4. -4 might also include the space. Okay, you can try this out. So see what -2 does. So that'll just give you the point O. -4 will give you, like, you can't see it, but it'll give you the space before. Okay, you can't really see it, but if you try to select it, you can see the space. Okay, why is this a problem? If you remember that all these are strings, if you try to use the int or the float to convert it to a number, you have a space in front, it's going to give you an error. Okay, so similarly, -5 will give you the colon. You try converting this to a float, it's going to be like error. Right? Python loves to give out errors, right? If y'all have noticed. A lot of our programming is just troubleshooting these errors. Okay, so let's go with -3. Okay, and now now let's say, for example, now we want to convert this into a floating point number, right? So instead of the print line, we can have an integer. Okay, so float mime. So the integer will only get the 1. Okay, but since we have a point O, we can convert it to a float. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I put 3 of them. Oh boy. All right, so that doesn't do anything. Let's print out float underscore mime. And here we are, whole bunch of 1s. Okay, let's say we want to check if there's anything other than 1. Okay, as you see, it's like a whole bunch of 1s, right? Like mbox short, we can go through it and check manually. But, typically these files are really long. And, it's going to take a while to scroll through it. And then, like, when we're doing this, it's easy to miss something, right? If you're scrolling through a whole bunch of 1s, it's pretty boring, right? So we can just check here. If float mime is not equal to 1.0, print float mime. What did I do? I forgot the colon. Great. Right, so there we see none of those numbers printed. That means all of them are 1.0. All right, are we okay? Now, what if we wanted something else? We wanted to check we wanted to check who sent all these. Okay, so let's remove this all this stuff. So I'm going to comment these out for now. Okay, and we're going to go back to print line. Okay, so now let's say you wanted to figure out who sent these emails. Okay, which line holds who sent it? Yeah, from, right? Okay, so I want you to modify the program that we just did to get the from lines and cut out just the email at the end. Okay, modify the program to get the from lines and get just the email at the end. Okay, don't convert it to a floating point. That's not going to work.